war richtig
So.
nice.
Welcome.
Gut weitermachen.
Okay,
I'm Matze, this is Joe. Together we form the project.
you're Matze, I'm Joe.
You're Matze? I'm Joe?
Yeah.
No, he's Joe, I'm Matze.
Exactly.
No, so,
Cut.
yeah.
Hello.
So,
Yeah. What you just heard is completely improvised. We just made it up here with the modular and this setup. I'm gonna start and run you through my setup a little bit, and then he's gonna take over. Mats is gonna take over and explain you what's going on over there. Yeah. So I have an Ableton-based setup. Computer is running over here with two controllers. One is a monom, one is a livid, and basically I made these controllers as my instruments. So I can access every parameter I want to access, every sequencer, every knob, what is necessary for me to perform with it. I really want to have it hands-on. So just a quick run through. Like I said, there's an Ableton setup with a lot of samples. Basically, it's a huge sample player. A lot of drum racks within the drum racks within the drum racks. So I can access everything, like I said before. I can sequence everything. No sequences have been prepared. We have a couple of shakers, some organic shakers. We recorded with a nice pair of mics, which brings some organic feel to it. But basically I have a huge drum library, which we made ourselves. And I can sequence them however I want to on the monom. And on the livid controller, I can shape those sounds however I want to. For example, if I have a kick, it's my first channel, I can, with these 5 parameters, you can see it up here, with these 5 parameters, I can shape the kick however I want to. I have a pitch, I have a high cut, an attack, length and release, of course, the volume. And this basically for every drum sample I've got in there. So I'm super flexible, shaping these samples live on stage however I feel like. And
Can we have an example?
of course I can give an example. I'll give an example for the hi-hats. So this is my 16th. You can see it up here. You can see this part up here. So here, basically, what I just did is I had the pitch, length, and the releases. Oh, there's so. So this is just a part for the hi-hats. This is actually a modular hi-hat we made up. And in this example, it's playing all 16th notes. You can see them here. I got them all turned on. The thing is that every time this triggers a MIDI note, there's not one hi-hat playing. I've got like 30 something different hi-hats, which slightly sound different, but they're actually the same, get randomly triggered by these 16th notes. So it's organically and has this organic touch, gives this organic touch instead of triggering the same sample every time. And this is what I do a lot over this whole setup, but the kick. Kick is one sample every time. We tried actually, but it feels super weird. It's nice if you make some, I don't know, IDM and it's not, but if it's 4 to the floor, it's gotta be the same kick. Even though I shape the kick over time, when we get into a new mode and he's looking for a bass sound, I make the kick short and give him space, tune it maybe up. When I hear he goes down with the kick, with the bass, and then I can tune the kick up and make it a short kick, which is kind of a chest, and when I hear he makes a higher bass, I go down low. But this is happening. That's why I need to have it hands-on, because I get into it while we are doing it without talking about it. So I hear what he does, and he hears, and if I see, okay, like I said, with a lower bass, I can go up. So
The accentuations of the hi-hat?
The accentuation, that's a good example. If I go here again, and you can see this knob again, I show it up here. If it's in the middle, it's a super straight 16th. And if I go to the right, I give I turn on the kick drum as a reference. If I turn this to the right, if I turn it to the left, this is basically 2 LFOs on the volume of this whole channel. So I'm going to turn it back on again and make a mix between not all the way to the left, all the way to the right, just a mixture. And with one knob, I can play with the accentuation of this hi-hat, which in this case is onto the offs, because that's most of the time where we set the accentuation. If I add another hi-hat, here I've got different hi-hat layers. This is just a modular hi-hat. For example, if I add an acoustic open hi-hat, which gives the drive to it, it sounds like that. And because the accentuation is still on the offs and I set all these hi-hats in the off, it gives a nice groove to it. Of course, I can do I can do it the opposite way. I can shuffle those hi-hats all over the grid and then play with the accentuation the other way. So I'm gonna give maybe one more example, which is one of my favorite tracks, which has a similar approach. It's the shakers. I'm gonna turn all of my LFOs off. And then I've got the possibility to turn on one knob, which is the accentuation on the on. Again, kick as a reference. I go to the second one, my clap. Go to the last one. And I can mix those. And because it gets so low, because if one volume level is to the ons and one is to the offs, if you mix them both, it just turns off. So I've got a mix for both of them. And I can...
So basically the same shaker track can be played with different accentuations. So this is the approach. Like.
Yeah. And the good thing is that I can access all of these just without looking on the laptop. I can, even though we mostly play in dark clubs with no light, I have to know where to access everything. And this is how I structured my setup to be most flexible, which has kind of a similar approach like the modular. Because with the modular, you want everything hands-on. You want to feel the knobs and get your creativity while tweaking knobs and not while looking on the laptop, being on the touch screen and trying to find something you don't know what, but you're trying to find it. So.
And how are you synced to the modular?
Exactly, I'll come right to that. So, 2 last things. I route everything of this to my main, which is actually a return. This gives me the ability to have another return track with effects on it. So I can freeze effects. And easily can create drops. If this would be my main master, if you turn down the master, you can't even hear the returns. So this is why I route all of my tracks to a separate return. Yes, and then we've got my babyface over here, and out of the ADAT output, I route a 16th clock into the expert sleepers, and this is where the madness begins.
So if you're not familiar with this expert sleeper system, it's basically an audio interface which receives a digital signal, and most sound cards have this ADAT output. Nobody knows what to do with it. And so, the thing is you have 8 digital outputs there. and they go over this light pipe cable which glows red, as you can see it, and it's just a digital signal with 8 channels, and the expert sleepers thing is just outputting them analog, but with the correct level for the modular system. It's like 10 volts plus minus. So it's basically a specialized audio interface. And it's really cool because you can just route whatever you want from the computer into the modular system. What we use, you can see it here a little bit blinking. So it's basically a 16th notes clock. It's this one here, the red light. And this gives me basically the tempo of his performance. So I get the tempo, that's it. And I also get some LFOs, which I can like save here. It's just not so much space in the modular system, so it's handy to have some LFOs from the computer which are in sync to his stuff. And with the 16th notes clock, my first module I use is the Euclidean circles, which is a Euclidean pattern generator / clock divider. Very easy. And this distributes all the clocking information to the modular system, which in my case consists of 5 voices. And these 5 voices have all different features, but they have also some similarities. And this ADAC mixer is basically my mixer. So I have a bass voice. I have a voice which makes noises and glitchy stuff. I have a voice which is just the OP1. So I can just record something here. Let's see. Little sequence. And it should play. Yeah. And it also goes into the reverb. But this is also, I consider this as a voice because I use as a sound source, as an oscillator, the OP1. And for all rhythmic informations and processing, I use the modular system. Then again, I have a voice which triggers samples. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's just something coming out. Yeah. It's super random. I don't know if you know the the radio music module, which is just playing back long audio files endlessly. And I do the same with this thing. Yeah, it's just here. This is the recording.
We looked exact.
I can pitch it. Yeah, and what I do, I use another sequencer to trigger the start point, and then
Clear light.
just turn it on, and I can record this.
Clear light.
And so I created a sample. I don't know even
Clear light.
what's coming when I do this, so it's like always happy accident. So my last voice is just a synth, yeah. So and all these voices are somehow interconnected, so they are not independently, and that's the beauty of the modular. You can just interconnect everything what you want, and I just run through my bass voice as an example. Which is a super boring subtractive patch. It's like super easy. It's 3 oscillators with a filter and the envelope. Nothing fancy. So the sequencer I use for this is the Dark Time, which I like because it's super hands-on. Yeah, there's no fancy sub-menus, whatever. It's just does what you do, what you set up here, But I use not only the one sequence to create my bass pattern, I use more inputs to the sequence. So I mix the sequence with other sequences. And the first thing I mix it is the sequence which I create with my fingers. It's the pitch of this keyboard. Let's try it again. So this basically, the sequence I play follows the transposition of the keyboard, which is super easy, yeah? And what I can do, I can even, you can hear it. a little out of tune. So I can play a melody and the bass pattern is following it, yeah? So super easy. The rhythm is completely different, so... So, little reverb, add a little reverb to it. Okay. So, what I can do is, I can transpose it also. So, if I play the fifths, it can be the root note. So, what I'm playing on the top keyboard is the fifth, and the root note is coming from the sequencer. I can set any interval I want to have, like a minor third, whatever. It sounds like. So it's not super complicated, but as I can play keyboard a little bit, yeah, it's a super easy way to create a control voltage to control my modular system, yeah. So a lot of people don't use this skill, they maybe have, yeah. So add a keyboard to your modular system, it's fun. Yeah, it's not so hard. I just play silly stuff and then listen what's coming out. I use another CV source for it. Sometimes I want to have something like bandy, not tonal. I have this module, which is like a CV recorder, which acts in 3 dimensions. So you can just use it like a, how's it called? The effects pad from Korg, this Chaos pad. Yeah, it's similar to a Chaos pad, but it outputs CV. It does not any processing, it just outputs CV. But you can record it. So whenever I hold my hand here, now it's like nothing. And when I record this movement, it starts looping it. And it records when my hand is present. So this is a super cool feature. What it does to my bass line is this. I can also... And I also can shift it. So it's basically 3 CVs mixed into one bass sound. I have another layer of complexity. This was the pitch, yeah, and so rhythm is coming from the dark time. I don't need. Didn't have the feeling that I need more complexity to the rhythm because we do like techno music. So it's nice to have like only 8 steps or maybe 16. And they just repeat.
Maybe 3.
Or maybe 3,
maybe
yeah,
5.
also. Yeah, 3 steps, it's also nice, yeah. So, yeah, you can do just 3 steps. Let's turn this up. Then you have the lengths. Then I have the filter. Which is triggered by the same envelope as the volume. So it's super boring. Whenever the volume starts, the voice plays and the filter goes on. And then it fades out, kind of gets darkened in the end. But I can control how much it should do from this movement. And I have another source for the filter, which is just a synced LFO, which I can set to a different metrum, and then they start interacting, yeah? So the intensity for this is also controlled by something else, yeah? I have the intensity for the filter. I can route it wherever I want, but sometimes I use just a channel from a very simple 4-step sequencer, which is this one here, the pressure points, and then I let... So it only kicks in when it's here, this step. So another layer of complexity. So it's just, now we have pitch controlled by this thing, the sequencer, the keyboard, frequency controlled by a LFO, and the rhythm from the dark time, yeah? So this is like a lot of stuff going on. This is basically my bass voice. It has 2 oscillators, which I also can tune to different intervals, which is fun. Now it's kind of an octave. It's a cheesy major third. But this is like fifths again. So let's go. And deeper. Yeah, that would be a bass pattern I could use. So super easy to create different parts in a song by just changing the note, which is the root note, yeah, with the keyboard. So that's my bass voice, basically. There's a few tricks. So I try to use all the modules in most effective way. So I also pitched like the FM of the bass, which gives like super weird tonalities because it's FM, and frequency modulation. So one oscillator is modulating the other one. And also I did some filter feedback, which is like using an output of the filter to control the frequency of the filter. So the output, the note that comes out or the sound that comes out is controlling the frequency of the filter, which gives a nice distortion-like effect. Let's make one note. So this is like only the oscillators. Now it's with feedback. Without width. So it's a very easy trick to create distortion if you don't have a distortion module at hand. Yeah, so just take one output of the filter and route it back to the input of or a CV input. Yeah. All the other voices follow like similar ideas. Like the OP1 voice is like, I play sometimes like arpeggios with this. Like this. Can you add a kick drum? Of course. And then you see, oh, it's totally out of sync. We have this DJ phenomenon. Oh, he sucks at mixing. But then you can nudge it to the correct position. Yeah. And then I use another pattern to create a melody out of this, because I have 4 notes, which I use now. And then I play something. It's still the same arpeggio playing in the background, yeah? So if I turn it on, it's this. But I accentuate only a few notes. So it's like I only select a few notes out of this. Very easy. Now you also can shift this again. So I have my melody. And I can also change the sound of the OP1. So very easy way to create a melody and a rhythm and whatever, yeah, and some like melodic context, yeah. So and this was like just playing 4 notes into an arpeggio, playing a sequence, and then send it into some effects, and this is like, and to achieve this, like you have to have a system which you know inside out. It's not a patch I made up just now, today. There are always some things I patch differently. For example, I use the pressure points as a very easy sequencer. Like it has 4 steps, and I control different parameters with it. For example, the LFO intensity of the cutoff was one parameter. Sometimes I put it into the cycle input of the yeah, here. So it creates these kind of fake ratcheting effects, yeah. It's just one step of the sequencer now. It turns the cycle on the maths on, which like just repeats the envelope like this here. But I can stop it again, yeah. So it's all about interchanging different sequences with each other. Yeah, that's basically my setup. There's the sample voice, the OP1 voice, which I also use because polyphonic things are really a nightmare inside the modular system. So you can have 4, or you just
If you want to travel, you
yeah. Or you just or you use a polyphonic sound source, and then operate it with it in the modular system, which is a lot of fun. So a lot of possibilities. You can use arpeggios. You can even very interesting or very nice trick is just play single notes here. Like this is 13 notes, yeah. Then I set the speed very low, and the envelope's a little slow of this machine, and then I get something like this. And I can use to create this kind of chopped chords. Yeah. Also, very easy voice. Just use a polyphonic synth to mangle it in the modular system. Yeah. Yeah. That's basically my
Yeah, basically he goes with the modular. He goes back into the baby phase, and we route the inputs of the modular plus the output of the Ableton session into a program which is called Live Professor. Yeah, sounds very professional.
So this is okay. This is a completely new topic. It's about the post-processing of all of this. So
Exactly.
how we combine all this together with no latency.
Exactly.
So, and if you ever tried this, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. If you go through Ableton, it's a real nightmare, especially when you have a big buffer size. And this is Live Professor is actually a plugin host where you can set the buffer size individually or independently, not depending on the buffer size in Ableton, which is nice. So I can go down to, like, I think I'm down to 64. So he can actually play, and we can put plugins on both of our chains. So we are able to kind of mix, master somehow, so we can keep up with the DJ level. Because when, I don't know if you've experienced this, the live mic comes on and the DJ before cranks up into the reds, and then, you know, you're super low and everybody's like, oh yeah, maybe let's get a drink, or, you know. So this is a way to achieve pretty
Almost
good level.
latency-free mastering chain. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's like really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it depends on our mood and the mood of the audience how the result is. You have a lot of obstacles, or for me, I have a lot of obstacles. I don't think how his system behaves, but the beauty of a modular system, it's like always challenging. It's like almost. So this system is small, but still it's like giving me a lot of headache while playing live. So you have to control a lot. I have to think, okay, is this correct pitch? is the rhythm okay? Does it sync to the computer correctly? Which it does because of this expert sleepers. But
Took a while.
it took a while. And then you have to decide a lot. So because there's nothing prepared or saved in this system, yeah? I don't have any sequences prepared. So every sequence I play or every melody, whatever, is just made up in the moment. And this is, I guess we are called instant because of that. And yeah, this is the whole idea of our project, like creating music in instant with this instrument we prepared, yeah. And what I was saying before, if I would do another patch each time, it would be hard to control everything nicely. So I'm changing sometimes things. I make up a new voice, which is difficult because of my OCD that it fits perfectly into the whole system. There has to be no space. But luckily there's these 2 HP modules now, which is really helpful.
Yeah, but you've been working on the basic patch and the basic modules since we started playing.
Yeah, like 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
Yeah, and it changed a little bit. The sequencing changed, and sometimes I take something out, put something new in. We play a few gigs. I look what ideas I have during this time, and then maybe go back to the thing before or choose something else. But the basic thing stays almost the same most of the time, which is for me really good, and that enables us to improvise like this. So if you would play piano on one day and guitar on the other day and then violin next day, it wouldn't make sense. It's good to practice one instrument really well. Yeah.
Get to know the instrument so you can actually improvise.
Yeah. Do you have maybe questions or
Do you have some
something?
sort of backup?
We don't have any backup.
Did you ever have like a major crash?
Yeah, we had once dropouts in the sync, which was super fun.
So he looked at me like, actually we recorded deep toms the day before,
Yeah.
and I had them in my Ableton session, so kind of a bass line. I looked at him like, wait a second, turn on the bass line. After 5 minutes, pitch it up, and we couldn't figure out what it was. So I looked at him like, yeah, just play. So he took the OP1, which was synced because it's synced via USB to the laptop, and then he just played and made weird noises with it. And
Yeah, it was not a lot of rhythmic content then, but it was still a nice set. So
similar bassline for 2 hours. I mean, the event organizer came to us after the gig. Man, this was the craziest night ever. And we're like, yeah, you got it. So, was good. Actually, it was good, but it was different than what we used to do. But we never had a total crash. It took us like 1.5 years or 1 year after we started. We didn't play that many gigs in the beginning, but after we started, it took us a year or 1.5 until we had this solution 100% tight. You know, in the beginning, we also worked with expert sleepers, but then every time you started, it was a slightly different
no, it was
timing.
It was another
and-
module.
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. But yeah. Now it works pretty stable, but things happen. So, for example, at the 3000 Grad Festival, I came, unpacked my stuff, and I found out, oh, I forgot the power supply of my whole sequencing. Oh, somebody here with the power supply.
On the festival,
Yeah. So this is basically gone then, and what I did, luckily I had a small, like this super cheap Doepfer 99 euro cases, which I just had one effect more inside because I wanted to try it out. And then I put some modules inside this.
while sound checking.
While sound checking, that worked super well, yeah. And then when we came to the stage, I found out, oh, that was too much power. And the power supply melted of this device also. So again, back to zero. But then luckily the power supply of the auto here, this is effect, fit this. So I just took really one sequencing module, which was the Euclidean circles, and played the gig. And it was actually one of the nicest gigs because everything was different. So I am contradicting totally what I'm saying, what I said before.
Know your instruments, yeah, right?
Yeah.
But it was good, but very techno.
Yeah. and in the end, only the sequencing was changed to something else. So my voices stayed the same, luckily. And then sometimes something happens. So sometimes the backside of a module slips out of a connector, whatever. Yeah, so can happen. And then it's always like, oh wow, what's now? But you can work around all this, and it's also kind of a source of creativity for me. If I would like replicate my own songs all time, then I would be like, ooh, okay, DJ, can you please play? But because it's improvisation, you can just work around all these obstacles. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but there's no real backup. Like, you know, there's always a DJ around who has a stick with him. Just in case.
But we played now for 4 years. It's like a lot of gigs, and knock knock. It was always like working out. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Maybe about your mastering channel you have on the what was it, Live Professor?
Live Professor.
This
2,
is Live Professor 2. Yeah, it's really.
Yeah.
It's a cool program. It sounds silly, but it's really cool. It's basically EQ and compressor and limiter. So it's like this FAB filter stuff. And what we do before we play always, if we have a sound check, we do a sweep in the room, like a sine sweep, and look where are the crazy resonances, and then you can take them out, which is a luxury no DJ has. This is really cool. So this is helping a lot. And it happened also on gigs that we played, and then the DJ came, everybody was like, what's that? Why is it so bad now?
120 hertz, knocking almost in your face. It's it makes a big difference. Depends on the club. Some clubs you don't need to do a lot, but there are clubs where you,
We also tried, like, doing this part modular, more or less, and that's also a thing a lot of people ask. Yeah, why don't you do the drums with the modular system? It would sound so much better. But in reality, it was like sounding very similar. So there was not really a big difference between what I do and what he does. And our combination now consists of like heavily processed samples, which we do in the studio, recording through preamps, tape machines, whatever. And mine is the more or less pure modular sound, yeah. And we have the feeling that it's like a good combination. Like this is like also to have this contrast. Yeah. And also, a lot of ideas from the modular went into his setup, which is also cool. All these ideas of like using LFOs on loops. Like, we haven't seen this solution before, and it's very obvious. If you work with the modular, you use LFOs on everything. But in a computer, it's like, so sometimes, I don't know, I tend to not combine so much stuff.
Yeah, also the slicing of the OP1, I do similar stuff with a sequence which slices a shaker in a pattern or stuff like that, which wasn't there in the beginning either. In the beginning it was mainly audio, recorded stuff, recorded hi-hats, eight hi-hats, which somehow, be a little variety in there, but took time, so you are able to play sets at 115 BPM and 130 and seamlessly go up and down between those BPMs. And this isn't possible if you do all audio. I mean, it is, but WAP sounds okay.
Yeah. Also, our sets are quite long. Our longest sets were like 4 hours.
Yeah,
but usually we play like 1.5 to 2 hours, which is a long
2 hours
time,
is standard at the moment. Yeah. But over these sets, again, it depends. If we play a set on the beach and the guy before us play like super housey, we gotta go down and play. You can't go in and go up. You can go up to 130, but you wouldn't. Yeah. So to adapt to the situation, it's and to be as flexible as possible.
Yeah.
It's a hustle.
But it's a funny situation in a club with the modular system. Always people are like, "Are you crazy? Why have you have all this stuff? I just have my USB or my. You can map everything on this controller." Yeah. But on the end, all the people in the club really appreciate it because it's something unusual. For the modular people, maybe we are the techno clowns, whatever, and for the techno people, we are the weird modular guys. Yeah, it's a kind of difficult standing in between, but we try to educate both sides.
Exactly.
Yeah,
On point.
on point.
What can
Yeah.
I say?
It's fun.
Yeah. No, but anyways, it's so much fun to do it. You know,
Yeah.
if we see a live act who performs his last album for a show with, I don't know, 60 gigs, at the end of the 60 gig tour, I believe he can't hear his own songs anymore. So that's why we chose to not make songs, to just strictly play live, and that's what we do now. And I didn't get bored.
No, it's always exciting and it's always like a risk, and yeah, it's about taking these risks. Yeah.
Exactly. No more questions?
When is the next Berlin club gig?
We play for the Sisyphos opening on the 9th of March. Is it the 9th?
It's officially the 8th, but it's at 7 a.m., so it's in reality the 9th. So,
Exactly. For all you people who get up early to go to the job,
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
No, you're welcome to join. We play at Dampfer.
Yeah, Dampfer.
Saturday morning at 7.
Next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, then you're welcome to stay and ask more questions, see the setup, come close.
Have
Thanks
a drink.
for
Have a drink. Yeah. Thank you.